Is it possible for a kid to go through a nervous breakdown at age 7? I actually think so, because I sense I did. There are some very personal things that I won't discuss with you now, but know they had a profound effect on me which lasted a lifetime. Second grade was a really tough year in my life. Miss O'Leary, known as one of the meanest teachers in our public school system, just happened to find out that I was smoking cigarettes with some of the other guys. Consequently, she decided to hang me up on a coat hook like a slab of meat at a butcher's shop for all my classmates to see. She kept me hanging there in the coat room for an hour or so to show everybody what happens to kids who disappoint her. Meanwhile, some of the other kids came into the coat room and began laughing at me, which only made me lash out, swinging and kicking wildly at them. That is not all. At the same time, twice a week, I also had a CCD class with a second grade catechism teacher who was named Sister Bennett. She was famous for dealing out a wicked punishment called the rat tan. We considered this a medieval punishment that those nuns would use, which amounted to them wailing on our knuckles with a wooden ruler, causing extreme amounts of pain. She happily gave out this punishment way too often to misbehaving little Catholic boys like myself to keep us under her complete control. One day I tested her patience just one too many times. As a middle-class Boston Irish Catholic kid in second grade, I was expected to start confession and receive Holy Communion that year. This did not go down as planned because, of course, I had to try Sister Bennett and fool around in class. Much to my surprise, she was more than willing to mete out my punishment, the rat tan on my knuckles, as an example to everybody in the class as to how not to act. She grabbed my arm with one hand and swung that damn ruler on my knuckles with the other as hard as she could. The first whack fucking hurt. Well, the proverbial shit hit the fan. Before she swung twice, I jumped out of my seat, stood up, kicked her right in the shins, and made my escape out the front door. She did not bother to chase me because she was too busy rubbing her very sore shins. I eventually made my way home, and much to my surprise, my parents had not even gotten a phone call from her. For some reason, Sister Bennett never bothered to call my home. Lucky me, right? Weeks passed as I took it upon myself to hook catechism class while hanging down Roslindale Square, up on top of the roofs of all the businesses that occupied the square. I had a bird's-eye view of all the happenings in this pretty tough neighborhood. Cigarette smoking and hanging out with my brother and other buddies my age was, of course, what I did to kill the time I would ordinarily have spent in CCD class. 6 weeks of doing this went by pretty quickly when one day my father screamed at me from the living room for me to get my goddamn ass downstairs. He showed me the letter he received stating that because of my continued absence from CCD class, I would not be able to receive Holy Communion that year. Right then and there, he flipped out, chasing me out of the house trying to catch me to give me an ass kicking. Time went by that night and I got home to find my dad a little calmer. But that did not stop him from threatening me with eventual death if I ever hooked CCD class again. My dad and I now had to pay a visit to Sister Bennett, and I was not looking forward to this scene whatsoever. When we got there, the class had just started and Sister was in front of the whole class. She looked perturbed, having to stop and take time from class to explain to my dad what happened, as he pleaded to Sister that if I didn't get back into class, his mom would kill the both of them. She shrieked, "There's nothing I can do about the situation. He has missed too many classes and won't be able to receive Holy Communion with his classmates." Oh boy, you should have seen the look on Dad's face when all of a sudden, he just threw up his hands and yelled, "Fuck it! I don't give a shit about the little bastard," as he rushed out the door, slamming it behind him, leaving me standing there awkwardly, in front of the completely stunned classroom full of petrified little second graders. Sister Bennett at this point felt horrible about the scene Dad caused, and must have felt somewhat responsible because she hugged me seconds later and said, poor boy, I'll let you back in class and you can still receive Holy Communion with your classmates. Tell your father not to worry." To this point in my life, this seemed to be a reoccurring theme of life events. I always found a way to get into trouble, but for some reason or another always managed somehow to get out of it. Either I had the luck of the Irish or had a very patient angel by my side. A couple of months later, on the day of my catechism ceremony, my friends and I broke into the O'Brien's house with David O'Brien, who was their youngest son. His father used to lock him out of the house routinely because David could not be trusted alone in the house. True to form, we went in just to smoke the Parliament cigarettes I had just lifted from my mother's pocketbook. Mr. O'Brien came home, unfortunately for me, and caught us in the act. When I got home, my dad must have received a phone call from Mr. O'Brien, and he managed to find out about my misdeeds once again. He always had a weird, eerie knack for always finding out the shit we got into. He must have had some type of inborn radar when it pertained to me, and he always knew what I was up to. When I came in to get dressed for the Holy Communion ceremony, he met me at the door with his belt in hand. My grandmother, who I never saw much of and did not even know that well, screamed at him to stop, saying, "Neil, you can't punish him today. It's his Holy Communion Day, a special day that should not be remembered for the punishment he got from his own father." Dad looked at me and grumbled, "You lucky little bastard. Today's your lucky day." Another magical moment in my life when I can look back and wonder, how the hell did I get away with it again?